All right, I'm back. Didn't take me long. So now I'm going to continue with the next section here. So the question is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself as a new father? So, first thing I wrote down was learn to sacrifice your time more for your kids. Um, and I think I've touched on this in the past. Sometimes we are selfish. We want to do things for ourselves. We want to watch that show. We want to go here and do this. We want to spend money on that for ourselves. Whatever it might be. And time is one of those big ones. Sometimes you want to just do what you want to do with your time. You want to have me time. And as a new father, you got to start not doing that. So if I could go back in time and talk to myself when I became a father for the first time, I'd say, be okay with sacrificing your time for your kids because your children they're going to remember all of the times that you weren't there. And they're going to remember the times that you were there. And I think you want to have, gosh, damn it. Oh, I'm sorry. I just got a notification on the computer and it scared the heck out of me. um, yeah, your children are going to remember when you weren't there. They're going to remember when you were there, but the times that you did not spend with your children, I think they're going to remember those more. And they sting. I mean, I remember times when my dad wasn't around, which he was around a lot, and when he was around, I was around with him. So anyway, learn to sacrifice time for your kids, which kind of leads into the next thing: be present more. Just because you are around your children doesn't mean that you are involved in what they're doing. It doesn't mean that you are listening to them. I mean, with these devices, it's so easy to just get lost in social media or be on your phone doing whatever, wasting time, as opposed to being present with your children and, you know, responding to them, listening to them. It, be present more. That's advice that I would definitely give my younger self. Um, Spoil your kids with your time and attention. Kind of just goes back to the being present and sacrificing yourself or sacrificing your time for your kids. Pour into your children. I wish I could go back and tell myself pour into your children more and give them more of yourself, especially when they're younger. And I would definitely tell myself to read to my children more than I did. I mean, I did read to them, but I didn't read to them. Um, Kind of give a shout out to my daughter Erica and her husband Will. Man, they make it a point to read to their daughter Brielle, my granddaughter, and I'm sure that they're going to read to their son Graham. And because of that, Brielle is a voracious reader. She's only in kindergarten and she is doing exceptionally well at reading, and she is on her way to loving reading and getting lost in a book. And it's one of those skills that as a child, if you are exposed to it, it's going to help you for the rest of your life. Your vocabulary, your ability to read, your ability to comprehend. I mean, it's so important. So, yeah, I would definitely tell myself read to your children more. Um, Next question: based upon all you have learned and experienced, what advice would you give your children? Well, um, I would tell my kids, don't be afraid to ask for help. Specifically, don't be afraid to ask me or, mom for help. Um, we love helping our children. We love helping with our grandchildren. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. Very important. Be steadfast in your beliefs and raise your children to be lovers of Christ and not the world. And I think that's very, very important. I think raising children today is so much harder than when my parents did it, and certainly when I did it. We don't have the media, we don't have the internet, we don't have social media, we don't have a lot of the things that are of this world that I had when I had little children, and certainly my parents. So, with all of those distractions that are out there in the world, you have to be more vigilant with your children. You have to be more steadfast in your resolve when it comes to your principles and your values with your children. Um, you know, Erica, Mark, Julianne, Michael, Faith, they were all raised in the time of the internet, when the internet first came out. I mean, social media came out and when it was all the rage, and every kid is succumbing to peer pressure at school, and they want a phone and they want social media and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and whatever the social media du jour thing is. And as a parent, we struggled with that because we saw the risk, we saw the danger, we saw, it's on the internet forever. Whatever you put out there, it's out there forever. And that was hard for our children. That was hard for our children to accept. It's hard for a parent, going back to, parenting a child and what makes parenting a child hard: disappointing your kids, being stern with your kids because you have to be. I tell my kids, tell them now and tell them forever, be steadfast in your beliefs. Make sure that you are teaching your children to love the Lord and don't love the world. That's probably summing it up right there. You and your spouse are a team. Children are more clever than you think, and they will try to divide and conquer. Be on the same page with your spouse. Yeah, that is great advice that I could give my children. You and your spouse need to be on the same page. So when Julianne, Michael, Faith, even Erica and Mark, I mean, they were older when we became a family. Children know how to divide parents. Hey, can I do whatever? And the response is no. So then they will go ask the other parent. Or when, hey, can I do this? And a parent, like I, say yes. And then the wife comes around and, what do you mean you said yes? That creates a lot of problems in a family when mom and dad are not on the same page with whatever. And then the children know how to exploit that. They know, I'm going to ask this parent this time, or I'm going to ask the other parent next time, depending on what it is that they want. And as parents, husband and wife, it's tough raising kids and always being on the same page. So my advice to all of you kids out there, or out that before you are a parent or as soon as you are a parent, get on the same page with your spouse. If there's a disagreement about how to specifically do something in regards to raising a child, whatever the rule may be, you better hash that thing out quick, because your children are going to learn how to exploit that weakness, how to exploit that divide, and they will absolutely do that, and it's going to cause nothing but problems. So you and your spouse, be on the same page when it comes to raising your kids. What would your kids have been named if they were born the opposite gender? I'm looking at the time here. I have no idea. Julianne, I have no idea what your name would have been if you were a boy. Actually, no, I'm wrong. Julianne, you would have been Michael Jr. had you been a boy, because I always wanted to name my son Michael Jr. Michael Jr. is Michael Jr. So, Julianne, I really don't know if there was another name other than Michael for you. Michael, if you were a girl, no clue. No idea. And Faith, I don't remember what boys' names were being floated. I don't think Tina and I narrowed down or landed on a particular boy's name. If we did, I don't remember what it was. Yeah. Um, who did Who did they most look like when they were babies? I have no idea. Um, I often joke that all babies look like skid marks when they're first born. But so I would imagine I could look at all the baby pictures of everyone and I could find, something of me or something of Tina or something of Laura in there. Um, yeah, I'm sure I could find some resemblance of either mom or dad in there. Um, what were their first words? Really? Like, that's really a question? Like, I'm going to remember what your first words were? I have no idea. Mama, dada, you know, just baby babble, I'm sure. I don't remember anything in particular. How old were they when they took their first steps? I have no idea. I think everyone walked, maybe by a year. You were all cruising around by a year, maybe a little bit before that. But I have no specific. You'd have to go back in your baby book and look at it because it's probably written in there, what what you may have been called or what your first words were or when you walked. Um, were any of your children surprises? Yes, Faith was a surprise. Um, Julianne and Michael were planned. So if I've never told you guys the story, so let me see how much time have I got. Okay, I'm going to tell you the story of Michael and Julianne. So when Laura and I got married, Laura did not ovulate. She stopped ovulating when she was a teenager. Ovulating meaning she didn't get a period. Um, the doctors put her on whatever medicine to regulate her cycle. And if she didn't want to get a period for a particular month, she would just not take the medicine and she could skip it. And she would get her period, but she still would not ovulate. So when we got married, she knew that she was not going to get pregnant without some help. So we got married. We were in an apartment for a year. We got a house, and then it's okay, time to make a baby. And we went to a doctor, and the doctor wanted to start doing tests to figure out why she didn't ovulate. And she was like, "Nope, I don't care why. I don't want to do any tests that try and determine a root cause. I just want to get pregnant." So we're like, "All right, I kind of wanted her to find out why she didn't get pregnant or didn't ovulate, but she didn't want to hear anything. So she said, "We're going to go to another doctor." We went to another doctor, a fertility specialist, and he's like, "I don't care why you don't ovulate. We're just going to work on getting you pregnant." And she's like, "I'm on board." So we did the fertility shots with this doctor. They tested my sperm. They said the quote from the doctor was, "Your sperm's really good. It's quite good. You could fertilize North America." I remember him saying that. So I I got tested. She started taking the hormones. They were awful. You had to inject them in the upper hip. The needle was really really long. It was not a pleasant experience for her. It wasn't a pleasant experience for me because I had to give her the shots. Um, did did the shots for a couple weeks. They have you go down into the office the day of what we would call insemination. They gave her a shot to release all of the eggs, and then they artificially inseminated her with my sperm. And they said, "Okay, let's hope that it works." They didn't harvest the eggs. That's different. They said, um, we're just going to give you a shot to have the eggs release and hope and see what happens." And sure enough, she got pregnant first time. It was interesting. I don't know how long it was after they gave you the shot or gave her the shot and then the inseminated her. Let's say it's 2 weeks as an example. Let's say I think it was about 2 weeks. So our appointment was on a Friday, and I remember like on a Wednesday, Laura took a pregnancy test and it came up negative, and she was already like just very upset. Like, "I can't believe it was negative." And we're like, "Look, sometimes the pregnancy tests, they're not sensitive enough to detect a pregnancy this early. Let's not worry about it. So then 2 days later, Friday morning, she comes running out of the bathroom with a positive pregnancy test. And she's like, it's positive, it's positive. She was so excited. I was excited. Go to the doctor. They do the test. It's positive. She's pregnant. And then several weeks later, they do the ultrasound. And sure enough, there's one embryo, one heartbeat, and it's just one. So you have Julianne. Fast forward, we do it again for Michael. Did it the first time, it didn't work. Oh, very, very, very upsetting. And then she said, "Okay, I'm going to do it again." And the doctor's like, "Well, we can start, start right back up again, or you want to take a break?" She's like, "Nope, let's start it again." Another round of fertility meds, and the second time it took. Kind of very similar thing. 2 weeks after getting inseminated, we go to the doctor's office and it's positive, and then 9 months later, Michael's born. So Michael and Julianne were both planned. Faith was a complete surprise, and Erica and Mark were, I don't know if you would say they were a surprise. I mean, yeah, they were a surprise when Tina and I got together, or I was, it's kind of a surprise, like you're a blended family now, but not a surprise in the sense that, surprise, I have kids. I mean, I knew she had children when we started dating. So, what time are we at? 16 minutes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop here. No, what? I'll keep going because I'll just finish this page. Are there, excuse me. Are there any specific books that you remember reading to your kids? I remember Julianne had this book when she was little, and it was something with the ocean, and it was, very colorful. It like beautiful pictures of not pictures like photo pictures, but more illustration pictures. And it was a lot of glitter and a lot of bright reflective foil. And it was this big size book, and it's something about the ocean and whales, and it was a story and fish. And she had me making copies of this. I remember she loved that book so much, and she loved to look at all the pictures. And I remember, like, this is when color copiers first came out. And I remember taking that to work and making color copies of it. And I had a scanner with a color printer. I would make copies of this book so she could, I don't know, let's have more copies of it. But that's really the only book I remember reading to any of my kids, going back to read to your kids a lot more. So yeah, that was it. And then the last question on this page: when your kids were little, what trick did you use to calm them when they were upset? And yeah, I remember doing this. They'd be like, and they'd be crying, hysterical, very upset, whatever, for whatever reason. And I would do the breathing thing, and I go, take a deep breath, let it out. And they'd be, and I go, and I would kind of go along with them, like, deep breath. And I would do that breathing exercise with them. And that usually worked. That would usually work calming them down, whether they got themselves hurt, scraped a knee, or upset about whatever. Usually doing that would calm them down when they were upset. Okay, now I'm going to stop here, and because I'm at a new page, and I'm at 19 minutes. So thank you for watching. I'll be back probably pretty soon with another video. All right, talk to you later. Bye.